Hi there. This is the Candyman. Today, our subject is peanuts. Peanuts and peanut butter. I go a long ways back with peanut butter. I used to love Skippy peanut butter, honey roasted Skippy peanut butter, Jif peanut butter, Laura Scudder peanut butter. Any kind of peanut butter. We had a retail store. I was in the wholesale nut business, but we had a retail store on Garvey in South El Monte, Garvey Avenue. And we had a peanut butter machine there that was made by Grindmaster. And it had cups in there. The cups were from Highland Plastic Company. It was a peanut butter cup with a lid. And that machine was activated by a quarter, and it would play the song Peanut Butter when you put the quarter in. And all I can tell you is it made peanut butter right there, and people were fascinated to see peanut butter. You put the peanut butter stock in there. That's what it was called, peanut butter stock, S-T-O-C-K, that we used to buy from Nuts to You, Morris Rosenberg, Nuts to You. And we started buying peanuts in huge quantities from the Parnell family. In the beginning, it was Hugh Parnell, the dad. And then Stewart and Michael took over. And they ran into some problems along the way. As a matter of fact, Stewart right now is, he's in jail. And it's kind of sad because a lot of people died from his peanuts and peanut butter. And we have today a presentation that's going to be done by Scarlett, and she'll tell more about the company and what happened to them along the way. We used to buy a lot of peanuts from them, and as a matter of fact, one of the Parnells flew in from their headquarters to South El Monte to meet us because we were one of their major customers in the 1980 period. And so, without any other further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Scarlett. Thank you.
Death by peanut butter. The same food items that color our plates and bring us joy have also been the causes of some of the strangest disasters in history. There was the Great Molasses Flood in Boston that destroyed houses and left hundreds injured, and a cargo ship that nearly sank when the 1,500 tons of tapioca expanded in a fire. These are the kinds of astonishing events that we love to sink our teeth into, but nothing takes the cake quite like one of the lesser-known food disasters, like a deadly epidemic caused by one of the most innocent-sounding foods on the market, peanut butter. You may not have heard of them, but the Peanut Corporation of America used to be one of the largest manufacturers of peanut products in the United States. It was no less than an empire in the world of peanuts, processing 2.5% of all peanut products in the United States. This corporation saw relentless growth over its lifetime, and was once looked up to as the gold standard for how to run a peanut company. Yet all that came crashing down when it became ground zero for a food poisoning catastrophe. The Peanut Corporation of America started out as wholesome as you'd expect a peanut butter business to be. It was founded in 1977 by Hugh Parnell, who originally named the company Parnell's Peanuts, hoping to start a family legacy. Hugh ran the peanut company with his two sons, Stewart and Michael, who seemed to share the same passion and nutty know-how as their father. The Parnells were hard workers, and quickly became respected in the industry. What started out as a small venture that was making $50,000 a year, managed to grow that number 600-fold to an impressive $30 million a year. Parnell's Peanuts was selling peanut products to bakeries, candy companies, and other ice cream and snack manufacturers. You might be thinking that there was nothing to worry about, but this early success also became the start of this peanut empire's crumbling downfall. The 1990s saw Parnell's Peanuts in a series of legal disputes. The FDA found that many of the peanut products processed by the company contained unacceptably high levels of aflatoxin. This is a poisonous substance that is produced by the fungus that can grow on seeds, wheat, rice, and of course, peanuts. Without proper handling and inspection from the processing plant, entire batches of peanuts could be contaminated and rendered unsafe to eat. The aflatoxin cases in Parnell's peanuts led to several lawsuits. The American Candy Company sued the Parnells for 8,000 cases of peanut butter kisses that had to be pulled from Walmart shelves due to containing aflatoxin. Another suit came from Zachary Confections Inc., which had bought 40,000 pounds of toxic peanuts from the Parnells. While the lawsuits were a financial hit on the company, there were thankfully no reports of people getting sick. Although despite the aflatoxin cases, the Peanut Corporation was still seen as a strong force in the industry, and their reputation was still primarily intact. However, it would require a change in management in order to wash away any negative associations with the lawsuits. In 1995, Hugh Parnell sold the company, placing it under new management. The stresses of running the company weighed heavily on Hugh Parnell, making him more reclusive. Upon the selling of his company, Hugh decided it was time for him to retire. But the Parnell brothers, Stewart and Michael, stayed at the company as consultants. No longer being owned by the Parnells, Parnell's Peanuts had become the Peanut Corporation of America, or PCA. Under new management, the PCA was hard at work cleaning up their reputation, as well as their processing plants. Once the FDA cleared the company, they were free to continue selling to their usual clients. Confidence in the company was again as strong as it was before the incidents. The Parnells might not have been the captains anymore, but they were still firmly at the helm of the ship, helping to provide direction. This helped keep the company's image grounded and approachable. The brothers' presence made it clear that this was still a family business. In 2000, just 5 years after the selling of the company, Stewart, the elder of the Parnell brothers, bought the PCA in a private sale. This purchase that put the company back in the Parnells' hands was seen as a return to form. Stewart Parnell may have been on the quiet side, but friends and business partners alike agreed that he was the perfect leader for the company. Stewart had everything required to make a company like this succeed. He was described as hardworking and knowledgeable about the industry, and the dozens of contacts he had made over the last 30 years gave him an edge to make strong business deals. But most of all, Stewart was respected. Whether it was his fellow businessmen or the peanut farmers, people trusted his leadership. This made it seamless for him to make the PCA the company he wanted it to be. Under Parnell's leadership, the PCA again saw enormous growth. The company built new peanut processing plants in Texas, Virginia, and Georgia to help keep up with demand. In addition, the PCA managed to expand their clientele to include some of the most well-known and beloved brands in America, such as Kellogg, Sara Lee, Little Debbie, Frito-Lay, and Jenny Craig. Stewart Parnell also managed to use his contacts to make the PCA the peanut butter provider to the federal government. This meant PCA's peanut products were bought and distributed to feed children in less fortunate school districts, survivors of disasters, and military troops stationed overseas. Securing these business deals with large brands and the government ensured that the PCA was once again seen as one of the most dependable peanut producers in the United States. For the next 6 years, the Parnell peanut empire seemed to have returned. Yet there was one client that the PCA was unable to secure, and their synopsis turned out to be very telling of what was to come of the company. Nestle is no stranger to peanut treats. With a long line of ice creams, candies, and cookie doughs that contain peanut butter, as well as their peanut butter chips for baking. Nestlé was always in need of suppliers. In 2006, PCA stepped in as a promising candidate to supply them with peanuts and peanut butter. This would have been PCA's largest non-government partnership, and with their expanding enterprise paired with Nestlé's growing demand, they could have been long-term partners that mutually benefited. Yet when Nestlé sent an independent inspector to look over PCA's plant in Plainview, Texas, the results were shocking. Nestlé said that of the 40 points on their inspection, PCA failed every single one of them. Losing Nestlé as a client for poor health and food safety sent an air of doubt into the industry. PCA was supposed to be the industry standard. Stewart Parnell even had a seat in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Peanut Standards Board. If anyone knew about peanut quality, it should have been him. The next couple of years passed, and not much changed for PCA. They saw the same growth that they always had. For a moment, it looked like the Nestlé incident might blow over, but that was the moment disaster struck. In late 2008, a salmonella epidemic erupted in the U.S. Records showed that 714 people, half of whom were children, fell ill. But according to the Center for Disease Control, only about 1 in 39 cases of salmonella got reported, so the number of true victims was estimated to be well over 27,000 people from all across 46 states and parts of Canada. It didn't take long for experts in the FDA and CDC to find out that the outbreak had come from contaminated peanut products that had originated from PCA processing plants. This news led to a recall of all PCA products to stop the spread of salmonella. The PCA at the time processed 2.5% of all peanut products in the United States, meaning that millions of Americans could have been at risk of getting the disease if it wasn't stopped when it was. Fortunately though, the epidemic was caught early, leaving the number of victims to thousands of people and one pet dog. Yet this still wasn't soon enough. 9 people died from the outbreak. Families lost mothers and children, all from something as simple as jars of contaminated peanut butter. This became one of the worst outbreaks of food poisoning in U.S. history, leading to the largest recall of any food product to that date. Nearly 4,000 peanut products were pulled from shelves that contained Parnell's peanuts, costing manufacturers millions of dollars. The following scare led overall peanut butter sales to drop by more than 25% in the U.S., with many parents telling children to avoid peanut butter altogether. The disaster prompted the PCA leaders to be brought to court. When questioned about the epidemic, PCA executives, including Stewart Parnell, denied all allegations, claiming no one was responsible for the illnesses. Their story was that they couldn't have known about the safety failures, and were only following the industry standards. They argued that they couldn't be held accountable for something as easily missable as this. However, a number of reports and accounts painted a much different picture. Back in 2001, the FDA found that the peanuts processed at PCA may have been exposed to insecticides, but a follow-up on the report was never made. Then earlier in 2008, before the salmonella outbreak, Virginia state records show that PCA plants had serious health and safety issues. Inspectors found mold in the bags that held peanuts, 43 mouse droppings on the floor, and a live bird was flying around the processing plant. It goes without saying that there were serious problems in the plant. Yet these details didn't become public knowledge until 2009, when the court case was already underway. Instead, they were swept under the rug until it was too late to do something about them. This story, coupled with the aflatoxin incident, showed a pattern of negligence from the Parnell family. Testimonies showed that despite what Stewart Parnell claimed, he was fully aware of the health issues at his factories. An FDA investigation in 2009 showed that the company, including Stewart, knew that the peanuts contained salmonella since 2007, 2 years before the outbreak. But even with that knowledge, they still decided to ship the products out to their customers, willfully putting people at risk. We all love a rags to riches story. It brings us hope and inspiration, while entertaining the idea that anyone can find success as long as they put their mind to it. To many industry leaders, the Peanut Corporation of America was exactly that, a shining kingdom built from a humble family with passion and drive. It was the American dream. Perhaps that was why so many people over the years were so willing to look past all the blatant negligence. According to David Brooks, a representative for a snack company, it was common knowledge in the industry since the 1980s that PCA had serious health issues. But people still trusted the company because they were more affordable, and they liked the PCA brand. That image carried the company as far as it could go. Stewart and his family did all they could to cover up the issues to keep moving forward with the family business. But once the truth was out, there was nothing left but the company's own apathy. In February of 2009, the Parnell family's pride, the PCA, filed for bankruptcy amid all the criminal charges, civil claims, and federal investigations that were stacking up against them. There wasn't anyone in the industry now who would want to work with them after this. Then in September of 2014, Stewart Parnell was found guilty of 76 criminal charges, making him the first executive to get a federal felony conviction in a food safety case. Stewart was sentenced to 28 years in prison, and his brother Michael was sentenced to 20. This is where Stewart Parnell's story comes to a close, but the legacy of him and his scandal have led to massive impacts on the food industry. Politicians called out the current food safety laws for not stopping this case that seemed easily preventable. Food safety laws were more focused on punishing wrongdoers after the disaster happens rather than preventing it. Government inspectors had enough knowledge to know the peanut products from PCA weren't safe, and yet nothing was done about it. This scandal was what caused the biggest push for the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, to be signed into law in 2011. The goal of the FSMA was to prevent foodborne illnesses before they got to the people. To do this, the FDA was given more authority over how foods were grown, harvested, and processed. This law also had the FDA check foods more regularly if they were high-risk products. Now this law was a basic necessity that was well needed, but that doesn't mean it was a solution to the problem. In a 5-year study following the new law, there was a 93% increase in foods that had to be recalled for violating FDA regulations, showing that more foods were being processed in an unsafe fashion and slipped through initial safety checks. Later in 2011, after the FSMA was put in place, an outbreak of listeria occurred because of unhealthy cantaloupe production. This incident was more deadly, killing 33 people, compared to the PCA's 9. We still have a long way to go in stopping food poisoning epidemics, but we are making steady progress. As food testing technology improves, it has become easier and faster to find illnesses before they make their way onto store shelves. In addition, our understanding of foodborne illnesses have grown as well, leading to innovations in food safety practices in factories.
Great job, Scarlett. Fantastic reporting. Please hit the notification, the like and subscribe, and all the things you need to do so you will be informed when we have our next one. Thank you. Goodbye.